My name is Joe Harding, and it's my pleasure to be chair for this presentation in the ESU-Churchill Public Speaking National Finals for 2021. Now, I would like to introduce Bilal. He's the questioner for today, and his job is to expand on and delve deeper into the speech. Bilal enjoys debating, and this makes him a great fit for the role of questioner. Now, I'll introduce Alexia from the Taunton Academy, who's our speaker. Similar to Bilal, Alexia enjoys playing cricket, where she encounters fascinating people and their equally fascinating stories, much like we do on social media. And so she has chosen to speak on how social media should censor hateful opinions. They both strongly relate to this topic as avid social media users, and Alexia is very well informed on the pros and the cons of social media. And I'm certain we will see this in her illuminating speech. So Alexia, without further ado, I invite you to take the floor.
Thank you, Joe. If we look to the Convention of Human Rights, we see that everyone has the right to be treated fairly. Everyone has the right to be treated equally, to have dignity, to be respected. Everyone has the right to freedom of expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart information without interference by public authority. But when you abuse this liberty by spreading abhorrent and damaging opinions, should this right be taken away? During this speech, I will examine both the benefits and dangers of social media. Furthermore, I will consider the responsibility of social media platforms themselves and how they regulate their content. Social media is a wonderful connective tool. Websites permit the instant exchange of videos, pictures, and messages, bringing together people from all over the world. In a digital age, the internet has also become a forum for debate. Sites like Facebook and Twitter are now primary platforms for passionate discussion. Although the internet is one of the best ways in which you can share ideas, learn new things, and connect with people from all over the world, damaging and hateful media can easily be spread. As a platform with virtually no consequences, the internet can be the ideal breeding ground for hate. For example, hate can be seen or spread on anonymous messaging apps like YOLO or QMe. These platforms allow people to share opinions or ask questions anonymously. Although most of these messages are simple and innocent as, "What's your favorite color?" they can lead to more damaging and hateful content. I remember very vividly an example of when I had a negative experience on these websites. Although there are normally age restrictions on these platforms, I easily made an account on QMe age 12 without my parents' permission. On there, I recall receiving a body shaming comment. Even though it only happened once, the fact that I can still vividly remember to this shows how these comments can leave a lasting imprint, especially on impressionable young children in an unprotected internet world. The worst part is that these malicious people have the protection and disguise of a screen. The anonymous nature of these sites make it too easy for comments like these to be made. With suicide rates among teenagers rapidly increasing, I feel that these websites play a considerable part in this mental health pandemic. It is true. Social media can negatively impact our mental health. Multiple studies have found a strong link between heavy social media use and an increased risk for depression, anxiety, loneliness, self-harm, and even suicidal thoughts among users. Experiencing or even just seeing a hateful opinion which could be targeted at you can easily catalyze severe effects on emotional, behavioral, and normative levels. Social media can make us particularly vulnerable to putting our emotional and psychological well-being at risk. I've mentioned the negative impacts of hateful opinions on people and mental health. I've discussed ways in which these comments can be spread. But the real question is, what can be classified as a hateful opinion? And what are social media sites doing to prevent them? A dictionary definition of hate speech would be public speech that expresses hate or encourages violence towards a person or group based on things such as race, religion, or sexual orientation. Although we do have the freedom of expression and to have our own opinions, I'm sure that we can all agree that there are various things we know should not be shared. These things include comments which could be particularly offensive towards minorities, stereotype certain groups, or purposely put people down for who they are. As my mom always tells me, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. So, should social media sites censor hateful opinions? Censorship is the suppression of speech, public communication, or other information. I started off my speech mentioning the Convention of Human Rights, which included dignity, fairness, equality, respect. I truly believe that if your opinion breaches any one of these basic human rights, then it should be suppressed. It is inevitable that damaging content can and will negatively impact users, especially the younger, more impressionable generation. Although some sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram do have strict hate speech regulations, very few provisions exist to stop those whose accounts are deleted from creating new ones. Without real accountability, online hate speech ultimately goes unchecked. In conclusion, to try and put an end to this hate, we as a society need to stay vigilant to injustice in our world. It could be as simple as reporting a potentially harmful comment on Instagram. Remember to also try and spread positivity online. It may not seem a lot, but I believe being mindful is the first step to a chain reaction of change in our world. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Alexia, for your speech. I was fascinated by how you spoke on your personal experiences on social media. Now, I'd like to invite Bilal to explore and expand on your speech even further.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to be questioner for this presentation and to expand upon this topic, which Alexia is so clearly passionate about. So to begin, Alexia, just considering our joint interest in sport, actually, currently we see the Premier League's blackout movement against hate speech online. And on that, do you think that social media is an effective way of tackling issues like this and body shaming, as you mentioned, in comparison to real world solutions such as protesting, for example?
Well, we have to remember that there are 3.96 billion people worldwide with access to social media. It is a considerable amount, and it's a way that we can spread awareness on topics such as hate speech. So although protesting may be effective, I believe social media can be even more effective because of the larger number of people there are on this website.
Thank you. And just to probe the other side of the argument a little, you mentioned the censorship of hateful content, saying that social media is the ideal breeding ground for it. However, could it perhaps be argued that what's hateful is subjective? And if so, where do we draw the line? And more importantly, who draws that line?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because we do have to think about who decides whether something is hateful or not. Well, realistically, social media platforms, the companies who run it, have the terms and conditions. They decide. Ideally, we have to first think about it within ourselves. Should we be spreading hate? Should we be commenting something which could offend someone?
And just as a follow-up to that, you mentioned the onus is on a platform to consider the content on it. Do you believe that it's realistic that we're ever going to completely remove hate from social media, or do you think it's an inherent part of it?
Well, we do have to consider whether it's realistic or not. At the moment, social media hate speech is being removed by an algorithm or artificial intelligence. But maybe we should consider a different approach to how we censor these things. For example, someone mentioned to me that we could use IP address, the address on a device instead of email address. This way, instead of just your account being banned, your whole device can be banned. And that will realistically stop anyone from commenting something, because no one would go to the trouble of buying a whole new device just to spread hate.
I think we have time for one more question.
And just to wrap up the question session, well, we've spoken up about the impact of large organizations, but on a more personal level, what can we, the audience, contestants, and judges do to ensure that social media remains a positive space in the future?
Well, not many people know this, but we do have the ability to report a comment. This means that this comment will ultimately be checked and hopefully be censored.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both for that insightful question session. Bilal, I personally loved your question on the subjectivity of hateful content. Finally, before I conclude what has been a wonderful presentation, I want to thank the ESU for proceeding with this fantastic competition, the judges for their valuable time, all of the schools for their wonderful presentations, Bilal for his inquisitive questions, Alexia for her thoughtful speech, and last but not least, you, the audience, for listening to me ramble on forever. To summarise Alexia's speech, she mentioned 1, the benefits of social media and why it is important in day-to-day life. 2, how hate is spread on social media and its really damaging effects. And 3, the dangers of social media and the internet and what they mean for the future. And in questioning, Bilal covered what we can do to ensure that social media remains a positive space. I would like to end with a quote, and yes, you guessed it, from Winston Churchill. Hate gets halfway around the world before the truth even has a chance to wake up. But ladies and gentlemen, we must ensure that hate stays fast asleep through the power of social media. Thank you very much.